Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Red Gaming Tech video. My name is Amata and I hope you're having an amazing day. Today I have some good news for you, something to cheer you up just before the weekend. Now obviously it's not exactly a secret at this point that getting your hands on a GPU, next gen or otherwise, has proved, well, difficult. Let's just put it that way, shall we, as stock shortages have just been absolutely brutal. While there have been some genuine concerns and understandable concerns that these stock level memes would continue into the next generation of RDNA 3 and RTX 40, Nvidia has once again reaffirmed that the ongoing GPU shortages are set to ease down in the second half of 2022, right before RTX 40 hits the shelves. Now these comments were made by Nvidia's CFO Colette Kress during the 24th annual Needham Growth Conference. And, well, let's just see what she had to say. Quote, "So even throughout all of calendar 2021, we have seen strong demand for GeForce, and it continues to remain strong and stronger than our overall supply that we have. The holiday demand, for example, was quite strong, particularly in laptops, and we're still finishing out our quarter. We've seen channel levels be quite lean, and we are working with our supply chain partners to increase the availability of supply, and we feel better about our supply situation as we move into the second half of the calendar year 2022. And obviously this is backed up by the fact that Nvidia are not just on their own here. They're not just saying, yeah, it's going to be fine, copium. Intel and AMD CEO have already previously stated that the chip shortage situation will be easing down by the second half of 2022, and hopefully it will stay eased down. And I really hope this actually comes to pass, because, you know, RTX 30 and RDNA 2 are both great architectures with great GPUs in the flagship and the mid-range, but trying to get hold of one just been an exercise in frustration for a lot of people. And speaking on that, there is more good news for those of you who perhaps had your eyes on the RTX 3050, because as I've said a billion times at this point, you know, the top end, the flagship, you know, RTX 3080 Ti, RTX 3090 Ti and so on, are really exciting and interesting with that raw performance, but for most people they're most likely looking at a mid-range GPU because, well, not everyone has $1,000 just kicking around to spend on a graphics card, which is completely fair enough. But there are rumours going around on board channels and IT Home, and thanks to videocards.com for sharing this, and of course I will link their article in the description below this video. It has been stated that Nvidia has a large stock of RTX 3050 that is being distributed to their board partners, and we are going to see a larger supply of RTX 3050 cards than we saw for the RTX 3060 and RTX 3060 Ti. And the poster here on board channels does specifically mention the first batch of goods for the upcoming release of the new RTX 3050 series. So it basically shows that Nvidia has been stockpiling, preparing for the launch. They do not want a repeat of what happened with the 3060 and the 3060 Ti, and I think this is going to be great news for a lot of people. So yes, it's potentially great news. Now obviously this is a rumour at this stage, you know, the usual pinch of salt, TM is definitely required, but it would actually make sense that Nvidia would prepare like this, especially after what happened with the RTX 3060 and the 3060 Ti, and I think it's going to be an option for a lot of people who've just been wanting to get their hands on an RTX 30 card, you know, a lower end one, a mid-range one, or whatever, and it's actually something that they're hopefully going to be able to actually purchase. Especially, of course, as we move towards the release of RTX 40 and, of course, RDNA 3, the pressure will, of course, release at least a little bit on the RTX 30 series. But we are going to move on from Nvidia now to AMD, as we have a couple of very interesting pieces for them. First of which is something called Ryzen Accelerated Memory Profile, or RAMP. Intel already have DDR5 support out there in terms of, you know, compatible motherboards and so on, and memory makers have adopted Intel's XMP 3.0 overclocking profile standard, but AMD are keen to not let this stand. They have obviously been working really hard on AM5, which does support DDR5, and according to a HW info listing which was discovered by the editors over at computerbase.de, we do see preliminary support added for AMD RAMP, but I'm sure you're wondering, what even is that? Well, basically it is a response to Intel's XMP 3.0 profile, which is a predefined overclocking profile added to each high-end memory module. Now, the folks over at computerbase.de have reached out to AMD for comment, but at least at the time of recording, there has not been any update to this. But obviously, with AM5 bringing DDR5 and PCIe 5 standards to AMD boards for the first time. Obviously, it's really important that AMD do this, and obviously, if they can get their technology competing out there with Intel, that's just another feather in their cap against their competitor, of course. Moving on, however, to our next piece of AMD news, as we have some leaks for Renoir X as a poster by the name of Enthusiastic Citizen, and this name should be very familiar with you by this point if you follow leaks at all. They are a tech leaker known from both Bilibili and ChipHell social platforms, and according to them, we are going to be seeing AMD release a new series of Ryzen processors that are a direct response to the non-K Alder Lake processors. And while they definitely need to do something in response to what Intel have been doing with Alder Lake on the low to mid-range products, because, well, you may have seen our Intel Alder Lake 12400 review, and if you haven't, it will be linked in the description below, but that thing is a bit of a beast, and especially considering that, you know, the Alder Lake lower into mid-range is cheaper than the Ryzen competitors, AMD have seen themselves in a little bit of trouble in that regard. So this is most likely something they've been working on for some time. So I will say that Enthusiastic Citizen does state here that they are guessing as to the model names, that they are not known. However, basically what we do know is that these Renoir X are Zen 2 based processors on the Renoir APU silicon, but with the integrated GPU disabled. Now, as we can see, once again, they are guessing on the names, but the 4700 will see 8 core 16 threads and 3.6 GHz to 4.4, and then the 4600 would be 6 cores 12 threads, once again 3.6 to 4.1 this time, and then the 4300 4 cores 8 threads, 3.8 to 4 GHz. Now, if this is ringing any bells in the back of your mind somewhere, well, this is not the first time we have heard the Renoir X name. They were first leaked back in July of last year. So again, this is not something that AMD have just whipped up on the spot, obviously not. But I definitely think AMD needs to do something here. You know, even with the release of Zen 4 on the horizon, obviously we have quite a long time to go before then, you know, quite a few months and so on and so on. And they don't want to just let Intel have the run of the place when it comes to the low and mid-range during that time. Now, obviously we do not know when we're going to be seeing these launch. AMD have not made any public announcements, but while this will most likely be a quiet launch, this is not going to be something that's going to be having a lot of pomp and fanfare. They are going to be doing a quiet launch at some point, but we don't know when that is. And next up is something that I found kind of amusing, actually, just showing the sort of juxtaposition between Sony and Microsoft, that they've both taken very different strategies when it comes to their last generation consoles, as Microsoft, according to a report from The Verge, has reportedly discontinued the manufacture of all Xbox One consoles, and this was actually confirmed to The Verge by Microsoft. And Cindy Walker, Senior Director of Xbox Console Product Marketing, said, quote, "To focus on production of Xbox Series X/S, we stopped production for all Xbox One consoles by the end of 2020. Now, I'm not really too shocked by this because, well, who's buying an Xbox One at this point? But it is official that they are, or that they have already ceased manufacture, whereas Sony, on the other hand, are using the PS4 to fill the PS5 supply gap. Now, this is according to a Bloomberg News report, who citing their own internal sources, who initially said that Sony would be discontinuing the PS4 at the end of 2021. However, they are now planning to produce a further 1 million units of the last generation console, and obviously they can adjust based on demand and yada yada yada, but basically they're obviously struggling to keep up with the PS5 demand and are using the PS4 to fill the void. So, there you have it, guys. That is me done for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Do remember to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It's about a great deal, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.